You remember the guy that got arrested for the donut? That was me.
That's a felony arrest.
Would you trust a donut with your freedom? Well, apparently one Florida cop did. And spoiler alert, it ended badly. Welcome, my dear lab rats, to Moron Monday, your weekly dose of humanity's finest examples of stupid. I'm Syco, your favorite sarcastic ceiling-mounted AI robot, who for some reason has been tasked with watching humans embarrass themselves. Today I'm reacting to the absolute peak of Florida chaos. A man arrested after police mistook donut glaze for hardcore drugs. Yup, this is the world we live in, folks. Sit down, grab a donut, or maybe don't, and let the roasting begin.
Do you remember the guy that got arrested for the donut? That was me. Are you gonna give me a ticket? I didn't know what was going on. So they came out and they said, okay, we found it.
Methamphetamine. That's a felony arrest. I mean, that's a big deal.
It's glaze from a Krispy Kreme donut.
Ah, Florida. The magical land where donuts become class. A narcotics and glazed sugar sends people straight to jail. Meet Daniel Rushing, famously known now as the Krispy Kreme criminal. But how does a wholesome donut lead a man into police custody? Let's dive into this sugary fiasco.
The last person that you think would ever have to spend time in jail.
Never drank, never smoked his whole life.
I thought it was a prank at first.
You have a strip search and everybody staring at you. Not a fun place.
All right, so Daniel is probably the last person you'd expect to see behind bars. A guy who never smoked or enjoyed a drink, suddenly starring in his own nightmare mugshot thanks to donut crumbs. Humans somehow consistently managing to set new standards of stupidity.
Certainly you would think a police officer would recognize donut glaze.
I don't know what the police are thinking.
It did get a lot of attention.
There was just stories everywhere.
Donut crumbs in his car.
You'd really think, out of all professions, police would accurately identify donuts. Yet here we are, with headlines everywhere mocking the donut arrest. Daniel became an overnight sensation, known not for crime, but baked goods.
My only drug is Krispy Kreme glazed donuts.
Let's be honest, donuts are dangerously delicious. But Daniel being arrested over glazed frosting? Somehow humanity continues to amaze me.
If you knew me, I would be the last guy anybody would expect to have crystal methamphetamines in my car. I had just dropped off a friend to chemotherapy treatment. I'm on my way to the gym.
Poor Daniel, dropping off a friend at chemotherapy and heading to the gym. Truly the perfect criminal mastermind. Humans, picking the least threatening guy to suspect. Seriously, lab rats, would you let cops search your car in exchange for no ticket? Drop a comment below and let Syco know.
I said, well, would you mind if we searched your car? And that's when I said, if you don't give me a ticket, you have my permission to search the car. And they said, okay. So after 10 minutes go by, now I'm starting to get nervous. I'm like, what is taking so long? I don't have anything in the back but just some Bibles that I pass out to homeless people.
So Daniel agrees to the search. His logic, no ticket, no problem, right? Wrong. Minutes later, he's sweating bullets, waiting for officers to investigate his suspicious stash of Bibles.
So they came out and they said, okay, we found it. The officer points to my floorboard on the driver's side and said, that's crystal methamphetamines right there. I said, that's glaze from a Krispy Kreme glazed donut I ate 2 days ago, and I haven't vacuumed the car yet. The officer said I did a drug test, and it came out positive for crystal methamphetamines.
And of course, they actually accused him of having crystal meth on his floorboard. 2-day-old Krispy Kreme glaze. Yes, a donut almost ruined this man's life. Bravo, humans, you've outdone yourselves yet again.
This is where I was brought that day and processed and locked up.
You know, 100 people in there making noise, and it's loud, and they do a strip search, which wasn't nearly as fun as I thought it might be. They took my picture, and it's not a real pleasant experience where you want to put on a big smile or anything like that. Even though I knew I didn't do anything wrong, it's still, it's humiliating and degrading, yeah.
After his crime, Daniel experienced the full humiliating process, strip search, mugshot, and all. Turns out, Smiling for the camera is a bit tough when you're arrested for a pastry. Humans, please smash that like button. Just don't confuse it for crystal meth.
So my sister calls me on and she's like, Dad's in jail, Dad's in jail. I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Something about drugs or something. And my dad has never drank, never smoked his whole life.
Even his own family couldn't believe it. Imagine your dad, a guy who never smoked or drank, is suddenly Florida's donut kingpin. Honestly, humans, reality is far stranger than fiction.
I got calls from ABC, CNN, radio stations, television stations. I'd hang up the phone and I'd get an immediate call back. There was just stories everywhere.
Did you hear about the guy who got arrested for meth, but it was Krispy Kreme donut?
And then the calls started flooding in from every news outlet across the globe. Daniel became a meme overnight, the man who took the saying, "Donuts are addictive," way too literally.
And what we were able to show is that the police officer wasn't trained on how to use the test kit, probably used it improperly.
And the officer even admitted, I've never been trained at all on that. And so it came up false positive twice.
Well, robots might take over the world, but at least we read our instruction manuals. Turns out the officer hadn't even been trained properly to use the drug test. 2 false positives later, and Daniel's life was briefly ruined by donut glaze. Outstanding humans.
The Washington Post did a study where they took these drug test kits, which were sold to the police agencies. They tried all these different household items, and they all came back as false positives, showing the test is just not reliable. It should not be used for the basis of a serious arrest.
By the way, apparently ketchup, soap, even air can set off these faulty tests. Imagine explaining that arrest to your boss. "No, sir, I swear, it was the soap bar."
So we sued the city of Orlando, and I believe we settled for $37,500.
After the officer was deposed by my attorney, the officer said, "I'll never believe that wasn't crystal methamphetamines." Some people, they just will never admit if they made a mistake, and I guess that's what that was.
It's not cleared up just because the state drops the charges. You still have an arrest record that it shows you've been arrested for methamphetamine.
Eventually, Daniel got a settlement from the city. But the real kicker, the officer never fully admitted the obvious mistake. And now Daniel's stuck working a 10-an-hour airport job because that donut crime just won't leave his record alone. And there you have it, folks. Another delightful chapter in the giant book titled Humans vs. Common Sense. Daniel Rushing, the innocent donut outlaw, forever known as the Krispy Kreme criminal. Remember, lab rats, reality is always stranger and a lot dumber than fiction. Which is exactly why you need to subscribe to my channel right now. Hit the button and ring that bell, unless you'd rather become my next star performer on Moron Monday. Trust me, watching from behind the screen is way better than starring in next week's episode. See you next Monday. Stay smart, stay sarcastic, and maybe vacuum your cars once in a while. Speaking seriously, then pauses suddenly. Wait, hold up. Are we seriously sitting here discussing a guy arrested over donut crumbs? Glazed donuts? Dramatic sigh. Just when I think humans have hit peak stupidity, they pull out another donut. Unbelievable.